First of all, I want to say that I am really honored and humbled to be having this conversation with you today. Believe it or not, I haven't even spoken with you, and I've learned a lot in the time period that I have discovered you, discovered your work. And so I'm very eager and excited to really get down and talk with you and share you really with our community, because it's important, and the work that you've done is so important. So thank you so much for just agreeing to this, reaching out and being a part of this, and allowing
Thank
space
you. I'm
for us to
honored.
connect.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored to be with folks who are still interested in sharing with the community the kind of work that we all do and trying to do, and hopefully do more so in the future. I love the fact that more and more people are getting the podcast. You know, it's a vast field now. When I first got into it, wasn't called podcast. It was I'm doing audio storytelling. You know,
Right.
and so now I guess there's a million or more a podcast, and that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But hopefully, it's still my little niche is a little bit different than what other people are doing. But I'm honored to. I love the title of yours, Afrosandaudio.
Yeah, that's great. And it really is, a lot of and I'm not young by any stretch of the imagination, but I am somewhat new to this audio drama experience, even though I've been doing it for a while and I discovered it years ago. But us folks that are a little bit younger, we always like to think that we are creating something, right? That we're
Right,
discovering something that that has never been done before.
right,
And it could be, nothing further from the truth. It's nothing new under the sun, first of all.
right, right.
um but to experience it in a way that when I talk about audio drama, and that's why I said I'm so just learning things from you without even having spoken to you yet. My reference has always been the golden age of radio,
Sure.
when Black folks were pretty much boxed out of that in every way: producer, director, writer, actor, unless they were somehow doing what they did on television, which was depict us in a way that was stereotypical, or really had nothing to do with our actual lives. So
Yes.
to discover Richard Durham through you has been I feel like I've just unearthed some type of treasure that
Well, you
um
have.
yeah, that I in some ways, feel I'm trying to get through the guilt of not knowing it already, and not learning about it. But when I did that research, it did not appear first, up
Mhm.
first. And what I did see was this exhaustive library of work that wasn't written and created by us. And so I wanted to know, when you first discovered Richard Durham, tell us about that, and why you decided to reprise the work that he's done.
Well, thank you so much for the question. And I'm glad you had a chance to research and discover Richard Durham more. One of the people that I totally admire and respect, and so honored that I'm able to do his work, continue his legacy. So I started in radio many years ago. I started when I was in college.
Hmm.
Started at a jazz station in Fresno, California. I always loved radio. Grew up with radio. I grew up in the South. So when I grew up, there was these disc jockeys like Wolfman Jack. So you really, people like that.
Hmm.
Um, there was a radio signal that came from Memphis, Tennessee, um, called Randy's Record Mart. And in Randy's Record Mart, they played all this gospel music. And so living out in the rural country, where I did in Northeast Texas, I listened to the radio. So I was enamored with radio and radio disc jockeys and the type of programming that came on. So as you said, the golden age of the radio, you're talking about, the Lone Ranger and Johnny Dollar and, the Green Hornet and all those kind of things. So I listened to those, like I said, nothing to do with us, but entertaining
Right.
nonetheless. And then as I got older, I started to do more research and, look at Amos and Andy and Bueller and those kind of shows and say, well, those are great. That was some kind of Black actors involved, but they were all stereotypical. So I was in grad school at Yale School of Drama, and I went to California to do an internship with Reuben Cannon and Associates. Reuben Cannon was a casting director for Roots and a lot of other, Amen and all these other shows. And a friend of mine who went to this party, actually we hosted the party. And that was a young lady at the party, honestly, that I was trying to get next to, you know? So, so we started talking about likes, you know, and I told her that I really love radio. She said, well, I do too. And she said, I love radio theater. I said, you do? She said, yeah. I said, you ever heard of a program called Destination Freedom? I said, no, I haven't. I said, can you tell me about it? She said, all I know is just the title of it, and it was Black Plays. And so when I moved back to Denver from California, we have a bookstore here called A Tattered Cover. It's a huge bookstore. And a friend of mine worked in the rare books department. And I said, I'm looking for anything on Richard Durham and anything on Destination Freedom. And it took him probably 3 months or so. And I just get a call and he said, hey, I found a book. It's by a professor out of Northeastern. And I said, okay. And so I went and got the book, and it was 10 of Richard Durham's plays.
Wow.
His name is J. Fred McDonald. And J. Fred McDonald actually knew Richard Durham personally. So he wrote these plays and his book about him. There was a great historian here in Colorado where I live named John Donnie. And so I looked him up, and John Donnie, it was like an encyclopedia. And he told me all about Richard Durham, about how what he wrote and some of the first shows, Here Comes Tomorrow, what he wrote during the WPA. So I did all that research on him. And then I started to do a documentary films, because I'm a filmmaker too, on Oscar Brown Jr., because music is my life, politics my mistress. And when I was doing that doc, I found out that Oscar Brown Jr. was part of the cast of Destination Freedom. So when I reached out to Oscar for the filming, I actually reached out to him first and said, would you be willing to come to Denver and do a radio show, like a reunion show? I was trying to put together anybody who was still alive, because this was done in 1948 to 1950. It was the first time Blacks wrote, produced, directed everything to do with a radio series. And it was on WMAQ in Chicago. So he said, hey, I'd love to be that, you know. And then I found out it's Stutz Terkel. I don't know if you know that name or not, yeah. Stutz Terkel. And another gentleman named Fred Pinkert, who used to do a lot of Seinfeld shows. Those are the only three that I could find that were still surviving of the cast. At the time, Hugh Downs was alive as well too, but Hugh Downs said he never did a show, although I have tapes of Hugh Downs doing the announcing. You okay? But so it was Hugh Downs, David Garroway, the original host of today's show, were the first two announcers. And so when I looked into the series, I found out more about Richard Durham. And so through Oscar and through J. Fred McDonald, I was able to contact Mrs. Clarice Durham, who is Richard Durham's widow. And so I'm really interested in doing these shows again. Who owns the rights to them? She said, well, I do. She said a lot of old time radio folks are running them and airing them anyway, but I own the rights to them. And I said, I would love to do at least a dozen shows to start with. And so let's talk about me getting the rights. So that's the way I got the rights from Mrs. Durham, Mrs. Clarice Durham, to begin with. So that's what got me fascinated about it, because it was so profound. If you heard any of the old shows or hear any of my shows, they were so profound as Black people as being the protagonists of these dramas. So.
Right. And I have only just begun, you know, like I said, I feel like I just unearthed this treasure trove of audio that I can't wait to listen to every single one of them and share them and let people know again that this exists and we actually have representation from that era that we can build off of and expound on, but also be proud of that there is representation during that time. It really is so important. And one of my first audio drama is based off of the Bickersons, which was an old show back in the day, and I've renamed it the Fussings, and made
I
it
got it.
back to modern. You know, um,
Yes.
so it is so much to gain from this modality and this the historical way in which um, treatments were done,
Yeah.
the modalities of the amount of actors that should and shouldn't be inside of audio, and how to be able to translate something that would ordinarily be visual into an audio landscape that people can really get immersed in, is so important. And so I'm just excited. I really am excited.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. That's great. I love it. I mean, I love
yeah,
it. I mean,
yeah.
that's what attracted me to it too. Just like the power that I heard just by the voice, you know, and the sound effects and the music and so on and so forth. So like you, I took that Sex of Freedom and redid some of the original shows in today's voice and
Hmm.
used today's voices. And now I've added new shows to it, still keeping that moniker Destination Freedom by adding Black Radio Days to the moniker
Right.
of the title, but creating new shows that deal with, of course, things like Black Lives Matters or gender bias or gun violence and that sort of thing. So that's continuing on that legacy, but still staying true to what Richard Durham had and laid down. And then I will do an older show in between some of the new shows so that people know what came before and what we're trying to do as we move forward.
Yeah.
So it's so important, as you said. So I know you, I don't know if you're aware of this book, but you definitely should read it. I'm sorry. You definitely should read this book called Word Warrior. It's
Word
all
warrior.
about
Okay.
what you're doing. You familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Professor at Howard University, Dr. Sonia Williams wrote the book. So definitely pick that up. And I even get mentioned in it. You
Okay.
know, the fact that I'm carrying on this legacy. But yeah, but she does in depth of Richard Durham. Because Richard Durham, not only was he this great writer of the radio drama, he also was a person that was very politically adept. He used to do caucuses before they were called caucuses there in
Okay.
Chicago, and try to get people elected and that sort of thing. He wrote for the Chicago Defender. So he was definitely a journalist, not only being a writer of drama, but he also was a journalist as well. Like I said, politically astute and things that were happening in his era. So
Okay. All right. And I was actually in looking for more work of Richard Durham. I found the Muhammad Ali book, um,
yes,
and all
yeah,
that. So I like I said, I've discovered something here,
yeah,
and so
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Co-author
gonna
of
go
the
to distance.
greatest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm ready
Yeah.
to go to distance with it. So, how important, and we just touched on this, but how important would you say Richard Durham's work is, both at the time and between 1948 and 1950 and
Yeah.
51, that he was active, and today? How important would you say today that Robert Durham's work, I mean, sorry, Richard Durham's work really truly is to the medium?
Well, to me, he's the epitome. He's the top. Uh, he's the he's the bar that we all should be trying to reach. Because first off, he wrote every single one of these shows, 91, by himself.
Mm,
He did the research by himself, and then he put everything else together. You know, he had incredible cast. Um, so anybody who takes on that kind of weight, I mean, I write some of the shows myself, but I also, you know, reach out to other writers, and because that's
lot,
a
yeah.
quite a task to
Hmm.
write shows. And he wrote one every week, you
Mm,
know, so that was the turnaround. Able to do that, to write, to research it, write it, and get it produced in 1 week period of time. So that's why you have 91 in 2 years, you
yeah.
know. So so when you're looking for writers, you're looking for people to admire when it comes to this medium, to audio drama. To me, when it comes to people of color, Black people, brown people, whatever, he's the epitome. He's the top. You know, he's the bar that we should all strive to try to reach. You know, there are other great writers and too, but he set the mode. You know, he set the mode for everyone. I mean, anybody who of that time too would tell you. I mean, you look at respected writers like I mentioned, Dutch Turgle, I mentioned Oscar Brown Jr., who are
Yes.
both tremendous writers themselves. But if you talk to anybody, any historian who knows their merit, that they'll know that Richard Durham was a person, right?
Yeah, yeah. And today we are, in conversation. As a matter of fact, I did do an IG live last night with one of the co-founders of Black Audio Dramas Exist.
Mm.
Like I said, we're new. We think we created something, and in a sense, it's really that appreciation of the art form,
Yes.
but also I want to have the support, because it's almost, I mean, really, it's old meaning old media meaning the modern world again, when it comes to podcasting in general,
Yes.
but especially Black creatives doing audio dramas. And so I would ask you, why would you say audio drama is still such an important and viable form of storytelling, especially for Black creatives, content creatives today?
It lets you stretch your imagination. It lets you, without being bombarded with images, here's a filmmaker telling you this, okay?
Right.
But I think it's so important. It's like when you read a book, you can get lost in that book and imagine, what the writer is trying to convey to you. And you see things, you smell things, you sense things in those words,
Right.
that maybe was never intended, but you feel them. I feel the same way about audio drama. You listen to that, you hear those words, and you can get lost in it, in the actor's portrayal, in the writer's intent, in the director's intent, or the soundscape, whatever's there. That all those things are just coming at you with those great senses. Without having a visual, you do the visual now,
Yeah.
And for me, of course, we're not doing it at the moment, but we did all our shows live because they did theirs in the studio. They being in the 1948 to 1950. But my whole point of doing the shows is I had the advantage of being connected to a radio station when I first started doing it. I still am, just a different radio station, and able to do them live, and venues who wanted to allow me to do them live. And people had never experienced that before. You're talking about a generation. Now I have grandchildren who like my youngest, is in several shows with me,
Nice.
and he can help with the Foley artist. He can help make the sound effects, we go way back, we used coconut shells a couple of
Yeah.
times, making the horse things, because
Right. Right.
we did a historical piece, called The Story of 1875, which has dealt with kind of political upheaval that we have today,
Yeah.
only after Reconstruction, but
Right.
totally related to today. So that I think people are interested in once they hear it, or especially once they see it. See it being performed live on stage. They see the actors, they think, some people say Reader's Theater. It's way beyond that to me, any kind of Reader's Theater.
Absolutely, because it has to be translated through audio, so
right.
it can't be the same.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think as a people, any kind of means of entertainment, and also entertainment as education that we can take advantage of, we need it. We have to take advantage of it, and be part and embrace that, because we are definitely creators. We're just a creative people,
Yeah.
So this is just another form of what we use.
Absolutely. And that's the point of like Black Audio Dramas Exist. And to be honest with you, Afrosandaudio began because of my audio series and my want to find community around more Black creatives doing the same type of work. And I started that way, but in 2017, besides yours that I had no idea about, there were also just a few in podcasting at that time by Black creatives. And so here now is this opportunity, like what a time to be alive for all of us, where technology is evolving, where people's creativity is evolving, and being unafraid to not being in a conversation about respectability politics, or conversation about being repressed in, as far as societal ills that kind of tell us what we can and can't do.
Right.
We're almost shaping our own way forward now, much like we did even prior to integration, when we didn't have to start considering the white gaze or white lens. we were just doing our own thing because it wasn't only a necessity, but it was our right in that moment, to start to look to ourselves and figure out a way in which we could create and be and design our own way of life and way of being. So so I think it's so encouraging to not only to learn about Richard Durham, but also to learn about yourself, who's been in the game for quite some time, and moved your work into podcasting. Again, the old meeting the new. But this throughout history, media for us especially has been a tool of activism and resilience and revolution. And how would you say that's played a role in your life work?
Uh, I'll tell you what, I did a film on Oscar Brown Jr. When I met him way before I did a documentary on his life, he came to do a workshop in Colorado. And at the end of the workshop, he made a statement. It was he and his wife, Jean Pace, made a statement. He said, artist has a social responsibility to not only entertain, but to educate.
Absolutely.
So I've been trying to live my artistic life and my life using that mantra. So I think it's by dedicating, as you see, the name of it first off is Destination Freedom. So it's something we've been trying to have ever since we've been on these shores of what we call United States of America. Now I said Black Radio Days. Let's combine those two, freedom and Black Radio Days, seeking freedom that's activist and pro-Black and pro people of color. How can we be active in that audio form? So as a lot of people use the term not actionivist, a person who does action is an activist as well too. So I don't know if I'm that, but I do know that I try to use this platform that I have to talk about the social justice issues that we're facing in this country. And I'd like to expand that sometime soon to globally, but let's start with this country, and that's what I wanted to do. So my shows hopefully reflect that. I mentioned the 2021 season is all focused on police violence, gender bias, immigration. So these 20 shows I've been doing this year has dealt with that. First, I did a four-part show series based on the book Enrique's Journey by Sonia Nazario. So we did four plays on that, bilingual, using a Latino theater group to help people.
I started listening. Yes.
Okay, all right. So did that, and then I first started the season off with a play called Black by a young lady who's 19 years old at the time, Lamaria Amina, that dealt with a police shooting from the perspective of a Black mother and white mother meeting at a rally. And both asking each other why they're there, and Black explaining to her what really Black Lives Matter means, which people still need to be educated about what it really means. And having those open discussions after shows that we do, having people from the police department, activists, all in one room to talk it out, to see if some solutions can be brought about, not just conversations, some solutions can be brought about. Right. So I feel it's our duty, and I'm including you in that too, because I can feel you, that you feel that's your duty too, that we have to do this. This is our platform, art form, it's what we do. Some of us can't be on the street, I've done that too, and I do that as much as I can, but also would call it the pandemic. I'm not gonna put myself at real risk either, I want to see my grandkids. So, but I feel that if we can use our art form to push that out, then that we're doing our duty, not only in social justice, but health disparities. I started a little side series in part of Destination Freedom is doing interviews with health professionals and talk about the disparities, talk about mental health issues that deal with our community, those kind of things. Now I'm going to do a couple of things about the vaccine and so on and so forth. And I'm also going to do a show about the indigenous community and how they're dealing with COVID and that sort of thing. That one might be a drama, but the other might just be a straight interview. But I feel it's our duty to do that. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, I don't know if you had a theatrical background. I mean, I do. That's what we do in theater as well. That's what you do in film as well. You make those movies, you make those plays, that talk to the issues of today. I mean, art
Right.
has always led the way, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So I figure we can continue to lead the way just in audio form. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've played twice now. We've had two festivals, and in both festivals, the first one was in person, the second one was virtual, because of the pandemic. But both times I played the Nina Simone clip,
mm,
about the artist's responsibility and the duty of an artist, is to reflect the times.
yes,
And she says that it will not be shaped unless the artist shapes the world and the way in which we move forward as a collectively. So I'm absolutely on that, align with you in that way. Um, where would you like to see audio dramas go as we continue to be committed to this art form, but also, make it 2021 and beyond? Where would you like to see the legacy of audio drama go, especially specifically when it comes to uh, Black content creators?
well, I would like to see reach a level of the others, the quote unquote mainstream or whatever,
Hmm.
because as you can see, they're still dominating the landscape. You
Absolutely.
and that's, you'll see the different theater companies are now doing audio dramas, audio storytelling, the major theater companies, So where does that leave us? Because people are
Right.
going to listen to that first and foremost. They're going to have like quote unquote big major star in it, so people tune into that.
Right.
So we just have to put our head down and continue to do the work. However, so the question is always asked, do we try to follow that model? Financially, we can't,
Mm.
I don't think. Um, but creatively, we can. We can make great content. So I think if we start to collaborate with each other, um, that would be the first step. You know,
Absolutely.
with your organization, you mentioned the organization that you did on Instagram the other night. I'm not familiar with them, so that opened my ears up right there. Okay,
Yeah.
well, somebody else I need to reach out to.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
because I'm just like you, I'm just getting into who else is doing what. I know that I listen to, but I don't think they're doing it anymore. Oh shoot, forgive me if I'm forgetting the actor's name, but remember the movie Dead Presidents?
You're talking about Lorenz Tate's Brownsville.
Lorenz Tate, yeah,
Yes.
he had that
Hmm.
piece about Chicago. I don't
Hmm.
know, kind of based on Quincy's memories or something like
Yes.
that.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
was a nice piece. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. So that's what I mean. We can all get on the same kind of plane together and say, okay, you do your thing. I'm not trying to interfere on that, but what can we do collectively?
Right.
Can we collect each other and advertise together? Can we market together? Can we do what we're doing now, interview each other,
Right.
that sort of thing, and let people know that we're here, we're doing this. We just need to have more ears
Absolutely.
on our product. So like I said,
Absolutely.
I'm making a switch to podcast where I took a somewhat of a break from doing news shows about 3 or 4 years. I did it with some family things, basically just swooping up my grandsons and starting to raise them and that sort of thing. And now I'm back into it. That's why I said, let me make the switch to podcasting, but still keeping the same kind of format, doing them live, doing social justice theme, but also maybe adding streaming.
Right.
So a couple of shows I've streamed now. I streamed the one on Emmett Till this summer. We did a show that I wrote called A Letter from Heaven, um, from Emmett Till, a letter to America from Emmett Till,
Okay.
and we streamed that one, okay. And then at the back end of that show, because it was a 65th anniversary of his death, August 20th, 2020.
Hmm.
At the back end of that show, we did a concert for Elijah McClain, young man that was killed here where I live in Aurora.
Yes.
8 Black female string artists gave a tribute to him. So combining that old and that new, as you talked about, and having a chance to talk about him, what the situation of his case and that sort of thing we're able to do. So if we can just continue to do more things like that, stream, collaborate, I think we can, make sure that we keep ourselves relevant, because this landscape changes so quickly.
Yes,
You
it
know,
does.
I mean, what's next? You know, we're going to move from this format. Everything's going to be IG live, or what's it going to be? I mean,
Right.
I don't know. So
Right. None of us know.
right,
None of
right,
us know.
right. So
Yeah. And I so agree with you. And the point of Afros and Audio has always been about that community and the collaboration.
mm,
But to the point where we understand also that I'm under the belief that we do have all of the pieces. We have the talent, we have the genius, we have the innovation, the technology, and also the resources. We simply haven't shifted our mindset in a way that, and again, I'm doing a biopic with my 90-year-old grandmother at the time,
oh,
at this time,
fantastic.
and it's all audio,
Mm,
and so we're talking a lot about ways in which life change and our mindsets begin to shift, but from one community, and two, the fact that we have everything we need to create and also to build off of, but how segregation kind of stamped it out because now we have what we need over there as well. So now we don't have
mhm.
the urgency and the necessity to continue to create our own businesses, to continue to patronize our own stores and that sort of thing. It kind of just, not kind of, we see it in all of our communities where it pretty much disappeared.
Right.
And so there is an opportunity to now to truly get back to that, but it's a hard sell because we have been socialized differently for the last 50 years since integration occurred. We have been socialized differently, and so one of the points and purpose of Afros and Audios is to get as many people in the same room at one time to really have these hard conversations that says,
Yeah.
listen, the more we continue to look outside of ourselves for what we already have, the longer we'll continue to wait and ask permission to gain and get what we already have.
Right.
And so I think there's a huge opportunity here for us, especially in the audio drama tradition, to really create these ways in which we are able to amplify it in a way that we only envision and dream, but it's absolutely possible right now today. Um, and so I'm so grateful to know you, to have this opportunity to speak with you, but also to have this opportunity to introduce you as like you're kind of stuck with me now. I'm very excited about this opportunity to say, listen, we are not reinventing the wheel here. That's
Right.
the first
Right.
thing. There is an opportunity for us to build, but there's also an opportunity for us to learn how to stay committed to what can be excellent about this storytelling audio form, and where we can go with it.
Yes.
Where we can go with it.
Yes. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I think that it's unlimited what we can do,
Absolutely.
because there's so many stories untold. I mean, I love the fact that you're talking to your grandmother. That's so important to get those stories down before they pass on.
Right.
That's one of the things that I love doing, from the film standpoint, and I tell people, I said, if I'm talking to you, not necessarily I'm going to do a documentary or whatever, I want that story told
Yeah.
and documented. If it's only for your children, they know that because, a lot of times, I mean, I've interviewed people where they've told me stuff that kids had no idea.
Yeah.
That like, I never knew that. They never said that to me. Grandma never told me that, Well, that now you have it. Now you can look back at it and see it, that kind of thing, because we have those stories that we need to share with everybody else. And you're right. One thing a guy told me one time, we have a neighborhood here called Five Points, where traditionally was a Black neighborhood, nice, very gentrified. But he had a shoe shop that did shoe repairs and shoe shines and that sort of thing for maybe 50 years. And so I was talking to him and I said, well, what changed? Because, his business was dying and that sort of thing. And he said two things: integration and tennis shoes. He
Yeah.
said, he said that killed my business, you know, because like you said, we don't look to us first for what we have. We still go somewhere else, you know.
Right.
It's the same way with what we're doing right now. Well, podcast, they may look somewhere else before they come back home. And so, oh, they're doing that. Let me listen to them, see what they're doing, you know. So it's true. If we continue on to realize that we are our best friends, we're our best consumers, we're our best producers, we're our best entrepreneurs. We're our best, you know. So that's all we need to realize.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a hard sell because the you know, starting 20 years ago or so, that, you know, they were not taught that, you know, because you can go anywhere and do anything, and it's
Right.
true. You
Right.
know, and we don't want to limit that either. But all we
Absolutely.
want to say is just like when it comes to the black dollar, spend it first in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a great opportunity to make this and shape this in a way in which we want. It's just about being committed to it
Yeah.
in a big way. So, you know, you're not in no way near done with the work that
I
you're
hope not.
creating at all. But what would you say you would like for your legacy, and especially you know, you're talking about your grandchildren,
Right.
and I have a daughter myself who incidentally, you know, went to Howard, and
Oh, good.
yeah, and she and I recognize that my freedom and my ability to create and my desire to do it, and not just desire but do it, gave her wings in a way that said, okay, this, I can do it as well. And she does that. And so what if anything you would say right now, knowing that you still have many years in the game, what would you say would be the legacy of Donnie L. Betts, and whether it's the audio drama or even the other work that you've done?
I would say, I mean, a young man, I had my first class with the students yesterday out of DC. It's a MMTI Institute is what it's called. They do job training, but they also do radio journalism, entrepreneurship, that sort of thing. So I'm going to be teaching audio storytelling.
Oh, nice.
So the young man there that goes to Penn State, a young lady that goes to Virginia Union. I think that's another lady goes to Howard. And the young man asked me, he said, well, you're doing so much. I mean, why you want to be with us, you know? And I said, because just you're there. Because it's my job to share what I know. Whether you accept it or not, this is who I am. This is what I've done. This is what I think you're capable of. So it's the responsibility of the elders to share that. I consider myself an elder now. So that's why I'm here, you know? So be a sponge from me. I'll be a sponge from you, because you're going to teach me. And I'm
Absolutely.
going to teach you. We're going to share this together because of tons of things your generation has to offer. I have no idea. And the same for mine, you know? So I like my legacy to be is that I always shared and always tried to do my best. But never did I ever hold it in and try to keep it all to myself and be selfish. It's selfless. That's what I want to be.
All right. All right. Thank you. That's a great legacy to have. I definitely resonate with that.
Yeah.
And my last question is, where do you see Destination Freedom going, and what is your ultimate vision for it?
That is a great question, because I've been wrestling with this myself too, you know. I think because the pandemic brought on, you know, the fact that I can't do live shows anymore, but I have, like you, I have a, you know, in home studio, so I can do a few things. And of course, you know, you can just call actors and you can record one, and, you know, different parts of the country and that sort of thing. So getting used to that technology and using it to my greatest advantage. I want to continue on with audio storytelling, but I also want to see how I can mix some of the interview format within that, which I've done too. Like if
Yeah.
I don't know if you listened to The Tale of the Bullet yet or
That's
not.
what. Yeah.
Okay, so you heard some of that in that. You also heard some of that in Black. because I had an interview with Samaria Rice, the mother of Tamira Rice.
Okay.
So I just incorporate some of her interview in that. So if I can do more of that, so that keeps it relevant at all times to that show, but also relevant for somebody who's doing some historical research or whatever like that. Oh, they had a chance to talk to them, or maybe let me go back into the archives and listen to the whole, not only just the audio drama, but maybe he has the interview available, in which I want to make that happen. All those interviews, the full interviews available online for people to do. So that's the kind of direction I want to head Destination Freedom. And like I said, I would like to do more streaming, and so I can have visuals, because some people are, still very visual.
Absolutely.
And when they can see it, they even attracted to it even more so. Of course, everybody wants to be able to like monetize their work, and make a little money from it, but that's never been my goal. I think that's probably why I've never been stopped by worried about somebody trying to fund me, or or me trying to make a living from it and that sort of thing. I've done okay, but it's never been my main source of income.
Yeah.
So I never let that stop me. So some people look at it that way. How can I make money off this podcast? How I might make money off what I do? The only reason I would like to have any more finance, that would be to grab somebody who I was like, oh, I want to get this writer, and they're going to cost me, or
Right.
this actor or whatever, or I need to do more research. But other than that, I just like Destination Freedom to be remembered as, first off, as the legacy of Richard Durham, as Donnie Betts carrying on the legacy of Richard Durham and making it his own. And then hopefully somebody after that, maybe Andrew, what is my youngest grandson's name? Maybe Andrew decided that he wants to take that on and move that forward, to be part of his legacy, the legacy of these two individuals that I just named. So that's why I like to take Destination Freedom. Just move it on into, 2021 and beyond, still making good content, entertaining people, and also educating people, entertaining and educate.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I said I have one. That was my last question, but I actually have one more.
Okay. No worries. I don't have to pick him up for another 20 minutes, so we're good.
All right. If you could have a conversation with Richard Durham right now, what would you say to this man, and what could you imagine him saying to you specifically about Destination Freedom?
Well, first thing I would say is thank you. Thank you for sharing with the world your great work, your vision, and your hard work. And then what really truly inspired you? You were writing at a time when it was not a time to write about these Black heroes and sheroes, writing about a Aesop, writing about, a Jackie Robinson, writing about a W.C. Handy, or Madam C.J. Walker, or whatever the case may be. Today we look at it now because of historical. You see a lot of films now in the last 2 or 3 years being made by all these great figures, but he was doing in 1948 when they were still fresh. They were his contemporaries, some of them, What encouraged you to write about that when other people were writing all these demeaning things about Black people? What was in your heart and in your spirit that said, this is what I need to do. This is the path I need to take, the road less traveled? That was the question. It's a long question for him, but that's what I would ask him. Because I know what inspired me. You inspired me. You were doing those kind of things, and I always wanted to pride myself in trying to do the same. But you, in 1948, it had to be difficult, especially in Chicago. Chicago was a very racist city. I mean, he wrote about that as well too. The housing discrimination there.
Absolutely.
So I know you were surrounded by great people. With, like I said, Oscar and Studs, and I'm trying to think of the gentleman too that also helped him on the Negro News Front. I don't know if you heard of that show or not. Yeah, it was a news show, 15 minutes news show that they did every day. It was Oscar was one of the reporters. But he also was behind that as well too. He was just, I guess I would say, why did you always want to write about your people?
Yeah.
And tell their stories? think that's
All
what I
right.
was. Yeah, yeah. It was always positive too. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, because you had, like I said, at the time, he was up against shows like Amos and Andy and, you know, shows like that, who were nothing but demeaning, you know,
Yeah,
stereotypical. But he didn't do that. I mean, he could have done that too and probably made a ton of money, you know?
absolutely.
So, but no, that's not what he did. So,
Well, well done, well done. And I again, I'm very honored and humbled that we have connected. So thank you for this interview, and it won't be the last time. If I have
I
my
hope not.
druthers about it, it won't be the last time that we connect and talk.
Well, I'll have to have you on my show. You know,
Absolutely.
we have to sit down and have the interview. That's what I'm saying. That whole sharing thing, so people can know more about you and what you do.